Thunder King Ryo in the advanced format, that's not necessarily a point allocation that's worthwhile in Genesys. So both of these players had to go in different directions. Instead of Thunder King Ryo, maybe we'll see cards that utilize the Thunder attribute or the Thunder typing, like Thunderclap Monk, for instance, is a card that's way more popular over here in Genesys. So this isn't exactly the type of Blitzclique deck that you would see in the advanced format. There are some concessions made due to the point totals, but inherently circling around that brand new Blitzclique strategy.
And both of these duelists are great students of the Genesys format, and obviously, very vocal about it online, certainly huge supporters. But interesting enough, coming into this tournament, a lot of people thought Satellar Knight was going to be the most dominant deck in the room, and only one of those decks made it to the top 8. But now we are down to a Blitzclique mirror, as the 2026 Genesys champion will be crowned soon. That trophy will be in their hands. Is it going to be Hanko Chow one duel away? Yeah, he seems like he's nodding. He's feeling okay, and Jarrid smiling. Maybe he can make that 2-1 comeback.
And if I look over these decks, there are some pretty significant differences. Obviously, both players are going to be playing inherently the Blitzclique package, but I can speak pretty freely, seeing as how this is the last match of the weekend, and I will. The Jarrid deck list here looks like it's incorporating fully 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance and 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. Both of those serve as inherent starters, right? Pot of Extravagance, it's not a guarantee that you'll draw into a Blitzclique or a field spell, but it is something that increases consistency going first. Foolish Burial Goods combines really well with your Blitzclique traps because you're able to banish them from the graveyard. That inherently serves as a starter. So 51 points allocated just between the 3 Pot of Extravagance and 3 copies of Foolish Burial Goods. Hunter, on the other hand, has elected to play absolutely none of those. There's not a single Pot of Extravagance or Foolish Burial Goods in his deck. He's playing a much larger basis of monsters. Cards like Double Charmies, for instance, are where his point allocations came. So both of these players have very different approaches to how they constructed their deck this weekend.
What a gorgeous shot. It was the Millennium necklace there, and it does see into the future. Now we're seeing it from the other side. Who is actually going to be the Genesys champion? Well, we've gotten good looks at Hanko and Jarrid threw that trophy, but you're right, the differences in the deck list are important. The Pear Bear Scare is certainly an interesting card to keep yourself alive in this format. So many differences in this deck. We'll have to find out, who is our Genesys champion, but both of these duelists, obviously great duelists. There can only be one.
And so going back to the consistency element of the Pot of Extravagance and Foolish Burial Goods, there is a shared starter or a shared piece of consistency with 7th Tachyon, a card that has 0 points. Really, in many ways, the sacrifice that you make is incorporating cards into your extra deck. This, however, Blitzclique being a strategy that can very easily function with almost no access to the extra deck. So it makes a lot of sense to incorporate 7th Tachyon, ensuring that you can get that very pivotal Blitzclique starter that you need at will.
Well,
you may begin the game.
With 2 cameras, we get 2 angles, 2 looks into the future, as the Genesys champion literally has the trophy next to them.
Jarrid, though, will have the opportunity to go first. It looks like he has a copy of Return Stroke. It looks like he has a copy of Breakaway.
Standby. Activate.
He's going to start with Breakaway. This is now going to allow him to place a face-up continuous trap from the Blitzclique archetype onto the field, and that will be Alternator. Alternator will now allow him to cycle through his Blitzclicks, or really his Thunder monsters, in order to navigate to precisely the ideal starter here. We'll see what he has in hand already, and then he's going to follow it up with a Pot of Extravagance. Now you might be questioning, why is Pot of Extravagance being activated? That's the second card essentially seeing the field. Well, Breakaway is a quick play, so that can be activated before the start of your main phase. As we also spoke about, Blitzclique is a deck that can very easily sacrifice your extra deck, and in doing so here, Jarrid will get 2 fresh cards before deciding exactly how he wants to use his Blitzclique Alternator.
There's certainly a lot of advantage there because you can draw 2 cards and you're not really using a lot of your extra deck in the Blitzclique strategy. We've gotten a lot of good looks at this deck over the course of the tournament, so really this is more about the 2 duelists than the effects, but the effects are obviously important because that's how they got them here. Take a look at the extra deck. Banished cards, looks like 5 Xyz and a Synchro there, but not too much relevance. Jarrid smiling to himself. Maybe he thinks he can come back.
So the thing that's relevant that we need to consider is any deck that's playing 7 Tachyon obviously is going to be concerned about banishing very particular targets, so you can assume that if you're playing Pot of Extravagance in a deck with 7 Tachyon, that your extra deck is essentially just 2 or 3 copies of multiple cards like this. But we have here the activation of the Hideout in the Sky. It's met with what looks like a copy of Mulcharmy Purulia. So this is one of the fundamental differences between the deck. As I mentioned, Jarrid is allocating 51 points to Extravagance and Foolish Burial Goods. Hanko, on the other hand, is able to allocate similar points in the non-engine portion of the deck for the Mulcharmy. So we'll see to what extent does Mulcharmy Purulia stymie Jarrid. Jarrid already looking up to the sky, maybe up to the hideout in the sky, asking for a little bit of help.
Well, it's funny, too, because I feel like this is the same story as Jimmy. You know, if you think that your deck is the best deck in the room, including cards that really counter that strategy, you know, with Jimmy, we got to see the Fallen the Virtuous being able to revive other Cool Tune targets. Here, we see Hanko on Mulcharmy Purulia spending the points there to know that, well, cards are going to come out of the hand. That's going to help me.
So, of course, he's going to resolve Hideout. He first places a token on the opposing side of the field before then searching out. In this case, it was a copy of Surge Blitzclique. Surge is a very common one to search because inherently, if you're just working with Hideout, Surge does allow you to destroy one monster on the field. That could be the token, and allow you to special summon a Thunder from your hand. Now, ideally, you have additional Blitzclique monsters to combine with that so that you can get the Blitzclique search effects. Does look like here Jarrid is deciding to maybe potentially not play into the Purulia. Instead, he's activated a copy of Blitzclique Step Leader.
So it's interesting, too, because right as that Step Leader came down and we didn't see too many monsters, you know, the big, bright smile on Hanko's face sort of melted away. But it looks like turn play has passed, so he didn't give his opponent a single card. That makes perfect sense because you can kind of play on both turns, especially with the setup that Jarrid has put up. So let's see how Hanko addresses this duel, effectively losing a card. He's got a token on the field, though, so he at least has some interesting stuff on tap here. But
so you might question, you know, how does Alternator potentially interact on the opposing player's turn? Well, we know he has a Surge in, and he could cycle that Surge out for a copy of Emmy, that he could reveal that and destroy any card on the field. So that Alternator combining with a Thunder monster in his hand already, we know that there's a potential form of interaction there.
Hanko taking a second there, not sure if he wants to go ahead and drop his own field spell. Looks like we might. Nope. First, we're going to start off with the Crackle Blitzclique.
This is an interesting one. There was really no ideal point to use that on Jarrid's turn, but Crackle is this turn's, you know, it's often in the community referred to as turn 0, basically a card that can be used within the engine. Regina in the Elf Click strategy would be the equivalent on the opponent's first turn when you happen to go second, but there was no monster effects really meaningfully activated on the field in that previous turn.
And this is such a fun mirror match to watch because, again, the Crackle Blitzclique is going to be able to activate its effects if a card is just destroyed by a card effect, period. So Jarrid also has to kind of like tiptoe around each of these effects because if the card he's not destroying, you know, if Crackle's still in the field, it's going to see something destroyed, so he's just helping his opponent out again. Same problem as the Mulcharmy.
So what we saw there is the Alternator. Not only are you able to shuffle in your hand the Surge, obviously there was a face-up Blitzclique Step Leader, probably the reason that he had activated that on the previous turn. So now he cycled out that Blitzclique Step Leader. Now he's able to reveal the fact that he's got Emmy in hand, so that has been satisfied because it was added to the hand except by drawing it. He now is going to destroy Crackle. You can then special summon any other Thunder from your hand, and that's how Surge has hit the field. Now that Surge is on the field, although Surge himself didn't get value from destroying anything, if another card is destroyed by card effect, now that it is in the monster zone, he's going to be able to add a Blitzclique monster to his hand. You might start to see how this engine can suddenly start to get rolling.
This might be one of the most skill-intensive mirror matches we have seen in a long time, and not just because these are two great duelists, but the card effects basically benefiting each other no matter what is wild.
So now what we see is Breakaway. What Breakaway has now two effects. This is the second effect that we've seen in this match. He's now able to add Surge back to his hand to destroy the hideout, and that's enough for Hanko to pack it up. So Jarrid takes advantage. Able to open first. It didn't really seem like he had a whole lot going on, but he really secretly did have several plays on Hanko's turn, which means we are going to be going to a deciding Game 3, the very last game here of the very first Genesys Championship.
Both duels seem pretty happy about it. They do want to play it out, but only one of them is going to take that trophy home, and it's good to see them in good spirits because both of them are going to Jump Festa. So the only thing that they're playing for, of course, the amazing prize pool there. They also want the title there, to be an authority on Genesys. Can you imagine being like the first SJC, the first YCS, the first NAWCQ champion? Well, now we've got our first Genesys champion on the way.
The first champion in any, whether it's format or event, has always been able to etch their name into history. John Umali's name is going to echo on for all of eternity as really the first duelist to win an SJC. We're talking about players throughout the history of the game, whether that's the first national champion in a myriad of countries before we moved to the NAWCQ format, the first world champion from Canada, the first world champion from the United States, right? Names like Sahabi and Pauly. Those are names that are going to live on over the course of Yu-Gi-Oh history. The first very much always has that. Here, the very first Genesys champion, whether it's Jarrid or Hanko, will always be able to say, not only was I a champion, I was the very first, and that name will be etched into the history of the game. Because we'll have Genesys championships going forward. There'll be a second champion and a third, but one of these two will always have that opportunity to look back over the long, storied history of Yu-Gi-Oh! And say, I was the first.
Absolutely. Hanko still has to lock in, but look at an opportunity to go first. He was very moved during his interview with Jackie Jing, talking about, maybe you could be the first Genesys champion. And it is a big deal to him, obviously, but it seems like he's kind of calmed down a little bit right now. He is just locked in on the moment, having a good time up there. And it is a good time, right? This format has been incredible. We've seen so many people join the Genesys Championship, so many high-profile duelists, whether they're content creators, whether they're community highlights, whether they are champions in their own right of the advanced format. Now it comes down to these two very wise duelists, and they are pile shuffling, getting ready for the last duel.
I mean, our NAWCQ champion, Wilfredo, went undefeated in the Swiss rounds of the Genesys Championship this weekend. So just goes to show you the nature of competition in the Genesys Championship.
If there's something that has a first-place title, man, duelists will throw themselves at it.
With all that being said, we'll now have the opportunity to see in full the third and deciding game between Jarrid and Hanko.
Just incredible stuff. I can't wait to see it. And whatever happens, you're right. I mean, this is going to be a historic duel. This is going to make highlight reels, the replays. But the duelists seem like they're in good spirits, so it's what you love to see. It's cool that it's intense.
And, quite frankly, many of the first world champion, the first SJC or YCS champion, we don't necessarily have video coverage. Here we'll always be able to go back and watch the final moment in this match that will crown that first ever Genesys champion.
We do have certified UNC status. Our coverage we had to dial up on 56K and go read websites. But it is nice to be in the present. And presently, we are just about to duel.
Yeah, you have UNC status when your coverage weekend was constantly just hitting the refresh button until the standings of the next round and the feature match of the next round was posted. You would learn who won, not in the moment, you would learn who won probably an hour after the fact when the editors had finished writing the feature match. So we have come quite a ways in Yu-Gi-Oh history. With all that being said,
let's get back to it, right? But you don't know how good you have it? Let's see how good Hanko has it as he begins the duel.
See a copy of Cosmic Cyclone, which can line up really well against opposing hideouts, alternators, return strokes, etc. So that's a pretty reasonable non-engine piece. I do see a copy of Breakaway, so that's a fantastic card to start with. Again, it's very similar to Jarrid. He could use that in the draw phase to establish a copy of Alternator if he needs.
Well, he's going to have to figure out how to make those plays, just take a sec to kind of absorb his hand, think into the future.
Yeah, it's important to note, you might be looking at this and thinking, wow, he's thinking a long time about the next play. No, he's thinking about the next 5 plays. As you can tell, this isn't just what's next. This is what follows that. And I think that's one of the, the ways of thinking about your turn that is sometimes undervalued and maybe not appreciated. If you take 30 seconds to make a decision, every single decision, we might get to a point where that reaches slow play, 30, 40, 50, 60 seconds. You think 50 seconds, which is a long time, but then all of a sudden you've mapped out the next 15 plays, really can speed up your overall pace of play. So it's important to try to get into the habit of not thinking about what's happening next, but then starting to already branch out your decision trees so that you can make your second, third, and fourth plays much quicker than giving every individual play 30, 40, 50 seconds.
Well, he is definitely living up to that Millennium Necklace title that he may be earning, but at some point he's got to jump into the duel. I guess he's just trying to figure out, it looks like a mostly spell card hand here. So that might be what is slowing him down as he tries to figure out which spell to activate first, second, third, etc. So looks like he is going to go ahead and jump in the duel here. We're going to do the Blitzclique breakaway, just like you talked about. Seems like it's still in the draw phase. But I also see the judge talking to him and nodding. I think we might be getting a slow play minor warning here, going through the usual steps of asking the player if they have ever received that penalty before. Again, if it's untimed, it is untimed, but you still have to play at a reasonable pace of play. We don't want the stream to go another 24 hours as he waits.
Not that there's ever a point in time that you want an infraction, but I do understand that if you have yet to receive one, all right, I'll
Ooh, you're living dangerous, Joe.
I know,
Life
like-
on the edge.
I understand. All I'll say is I can empathize with the importance of this match to be the first ever Genesys champion. This is the game you certainly do not want to misstep. But what we see here is the placement of Alternator and then Surge. So why would he summon Surge and now Shuffle? I thought that was a Crackle. Well, now he's going to be able to cycle out his Blitzclicks.
And it was a Crackle. So goodbye, Crackle. Hello. Kind of visualizing in his head, this is what I'm going to place and this is what I'm going to do. I wonder if Jarrid can read Mental Abacus.
So maybe he's thinking about adding Emmy, and obviously then he'll be able to destroy his Alternator. Then you can banish Alternator from the graveyard. That could get you access to, presumably, his field spell. It looks like, no, instead of Emmy, he's going to go with Grain. Makes a lot of sense. Because Surge is on the field, he is also now going to be able to activate Surge's effect. Not only does Surge destroy, it also allows him to add a Blitzclique monster. Additionally to that, Blitzclique Breakaway is in the graveyard. It was used to actually place that Alternator on the field. That now gets added back to the hand. So if you are curious, how does this deck play going first without access to the field spell? Well, it just destroys some of its own cards for a little while, finding its way into that hideout in the sky. And now, look at that. We have Surge on the field. It had already activated its effect, but now Grain is on the field, ready to activate to add another Blitzclique spell or hideout. If something is destroyed, presumably it will, now that there's access to hideout. Here is that hideout that was just searched.
Looks like he got his head out of the clouds and into the hideout in the sky, activating it. But finally, Jarrid takes a look at his own cards. Let's see.
Ooh, this is a really fantastic piece of technology against really any field spell, but this is Vetus, the Eruption Dragon of Extinction.
Nice to see.
I remember when this card was first released, there was always that conversation that there will eventually be a format where a hand interaction that disrupts specifically field spells will matter, where you want to destroy a field spell on your opponent's opening turn. And Vetus, the Eruption Dragon of Extinction, is exactly that. Now, you do have to, again, obviously summon this to your opponent's side of the field, but this is a way of dealing with hideout.
So Hanko trying to put together what to do if he's no longer able to put that token on the field and if his field spell is gotten rid of. Vetus obviously from the Ashen archetype, but it hasn't seen as much play recently, but you're absolutely right. With a 7 out of 8 people playing field spells, that was a great choice from Jarrid.
This is always one of those cards that when you read, you just put in the back of your mind and say, there will eventually be a time. It will come.
Today is the day.
I mean, whether you put into the back of your mind that Eye of Truth could someday be playable, or Discord, another card that we saw this weekend, or particular hand interaction, there's always going to be a point in time, seemingly, where these very unique type of hand interactions matter. I mean, there's been formats where Skullmeister was a justifiable main deck inclusion. Certainly not all the time. But here, we're seeing the response of Whisker.
Okay, so he is here to try to protect things. Gonna jump out of the hand and go ahead and return. No, see, we are still going to have that destroyed. Okay, got it. Vetus is going to be accepted over into Hanko's field, but I don't know if that's going to be that big of a problem.
And now, because a card was destroyed, now what's really important here is that that was destroyed while Grain was on the field in the monster zone, so now he's able to add, looks like, Step Leader to his hand.
So still not in a bad position. Obviously don't have the field spell, but that's okay. Hanko's still feeling himself, at least as far as my eye can see. But he's still mostly on a spell-based hand for now, while as we peer, Jarrid has a nice mix, so we'll have a couple of different looks once it gets to his turn.
I think he's probably quite happy to have a mix of a concentration of spells. Honestly, he's established his engine. He has Whisker, he has Grain, he has Surge.
But more importantly, he's got that Cosmic Cyclone.
And, I feel like he really would love to have Alternator as well.
Well, sometimes you can't always get what you want, but I think he might have...
Looks like it might be a copy of 7th Tachyon in his hand,
Oh,
actually.
interesting. So maybe cycle around here, maybe thinking about what you can do with Vetus. And it looks like we're about to drop another spell down. I think it is that 7th Tachyon. No, actually, it's going to be the Step Leader. Set 2.
So the thing here, though, that I'm concerned about is how is he going to destroy something with a Blitzclique effect?
Well, it's going to be a little difficult there. Certainly he didn't get this far. Remember, too, I mean, You have to have been playing this mirror at some point. So now it's Jarrid's turn. He gets to draw. Again, he had that mix of both spells and monster cards. But first thing, start of the main phase, we're going to go ahead and banish likely 6 from the extra deck face down in order to draw 2.
And he has the Whisker. That is the destruction, but that's limited, right? If there's a way that Jarrid can deal with that. And Whisker has that really powerful quick effect where he can return a Thunder he controls to negate the activation and destroy a monster effect. That then would allow him to get his engine rolling again.
These draws are very important.
There is a universe where if Jarrid can deal with this without utilizing monster effects, he might find himself in pretty good position.
It looks like he just got a trap card there, and it looks to be, is that Typhoon?
It is indeed Typhoon.
Wow.
Yeah, so it looks like he's got Breakaway, Foolish Burial Goods, Typhoon. I think there might be a copy of Surge in his hand, maybe his own Whisker. Just shuffling through there.
Typhoon, a very popular card at the very beginning of the Pendulum format, more than a decade ago, but it's good to see it again. It makes perfect sense in this format, considering that like how many face-up continuous spells, traps, and the field spell there are.
So now Jarrid's going to be able to show you why Blitzclique is such a powerful deck. It really can function, honestly, a completely different, but equally as effective way going second. So now we're seeing Grain. Grain has been revealed and targeting the spell or trap closest to Hanko's main deck. If this were to resolve, it would destroy it, and then he'd be able to special summon a Thunder from his hand. Is this the monster effect that will prompt Whisker? Oh, no, actually, a monster effect accepting the hand, so this will not prompt Whisker. This will prompt potentially Breakaway instead.
And I think that is what we're flipping over. Hanko unsure, but there it goes.
Okay, so this makes sense. So I was curious about exactly what the sequencing is going to be in this turn. So what's going to happen here is Whisker is going to get bounced back to the hand. Obviously now with that Breakaway, he can destroy a card on the field, which is important, right? He could go after something that he owns himself. Now that has put Whisker back into the hand. Now, because this is a turn in which a card was destroyed by a Blitzclique effect, he can special summon it out of his hand. So there is the possibility here where he'll be able to reestablish that Whisker. When I was curious earlier this turn about how is he going to destroy, there was obviously the Whisker effect itself. There was a Breakaway that was set earlier.
So in terms of what cards Hanko added to his hand, there's a little bit of glare there, but it's going to be Crackle, Blitzclique, and Blitzclique Breakaway. So recovering those resources and obviously threatening that Whisker. Jarrid
Crackle
hasn't had a chance to breathe for a second. It is technically his turn, his main phase.
He's done a pretty good job, all things considered. That was a good target off of his Grain. It was random, but it was a good target.
Well, let's see. Is maximum potential Foolish Burial Goods here being activated? This deck likes sending spells and traps to the graveyard, so why not spend the points to send that away?
Right, we said that was another form of engine earlier as a starter, because you can send Alternator down to the graveyard. Banish Alternator from the graveyard. It's a way to get access to a Blitzclique spell, or of course Hideout in the sky. So engine shouldn't be a concern for Jarrid. The question is, can he sequence through the now layered interaction? He's been able to fight through the Cosmic Cyclone, fight through the Breakaway that is set. Whisker is hiding out though in Hanko's hand. We've already established the fact that a card was destroyed this turn by a Blitzclique card. At any point, quick effect, he can reveal it in his hand. He could special summon up to 3 Thunder monsters from his hand. We know he was able to search some there. The fact that he's got, for instance, Surge on the field. Then he can destroy cards on the field up to the number that he returned back to his hand, or special summon from his hand. So it could be a lot of concern here from Jarrid if he can't navigate through that Whisker effect, but he's got a lot of engine pieces to try and do so.
6 cards in hand. Let's see which one he drops down first. Looks like he sized up the field spell, so we're going back to the Hideout in the Sky Kowloon. And doesn't look like Hanko wants to do anything about that. Maybe just thinking. Pins and needles, right? Each one of these little micro interactions brings you that much closer or further from being our first Genesys champion. We are just hiding out in the sky, kind of hanging out in the sky as we wait for another interaction. And it looks like we are going to go ahead and grab that token. We're going to put that right there in one of the last remaining monster zones. Searching through the deck, you can see some really interesting choices here for this match. The Wing Dragon Raw Sphere mode, I believe I saw a DD Crow locked in there too. So Jarrid, really understanding I'm probably going to be facing a deck with a lot of monsters, and it's a great idea whether it was the Satellar Knight matchups or the Blitzclique matchups. That's a great choice.
Probably lines up relatively well against Red Dragon Archfiend too, I have to imagine.
And another popular deck that we've been seeing throughout Genesys' history, especially after its recent win at YCS Columbus. But this is a whole different ball game as we add another Blitzclique into the fold.
Yeah, so now Whisker gets added to hand, so now he has his own Whisker in hand.
And we got ourselves a standoff. Who's going to blink first? Take a look at the Vados. Does he have anything I can do to help? Maybe not.
Next, Jarrid will follow that up.
Just pins and needles, but we are going to go ahead and reveal the Surge Blitzclique here.
So what he'll now have to do is target a monster on the field.
Definitely see why Eye of Truth was a popular side deck choice throughout the tournament. There's a lot of revealing in this deck, the Sacred Beast deck, etc., but it's only a card that helps you not lose. It doesn't necessarily help you win, so we are going to see the Surge Blitzclique. Go ahead and get rid of the Vados, return that to Jarrid's graveyard.
So now we have established or ensured that the Whisker in his hand could be special summoned. Card was destroyed by his Blitzclique effect.
Still haven't seen that Typhoon the whole time. Well, obviously the condition has no longer been met since we've got cards on the field, but it was such a really interesting thing. So maybe he's just going to save it for the next turn here or discard. But speaking of the graveyard, take a quick look in there. Nothing's changed, so I think we are just going to go ahead and let that...
He's using the Vados.
Oh, the effect, yes, yes.
So now we have a completely clear field, right? Vados makes a lot of sense. You put on your opponent's field, destroy their field spell. Then there's that pseudo Dark Hole effect.
Nice to see Vados again, and now that he's cleared the field, this is Jarrid's opportunity, staring only down at the step leader, and of course the known Whisker in hand, but he's got to proceed carefully, no missteps here. Looks like he's thinking about just setting the Blitzclique breakaway, sets another card that's probably the Typhoon, and I think maybe he just wants to whittle down the resources and fight back to win another turn.
Yeah, the complexion of this game is really slowed down.
That's a heavy choice, too, to be like, I have cleared all of my opponent's resources. Pass. See if he does that.
Nothing instant battle phase. Okay, sure.
All right. Just kind of checking Jarrid, kind of thinking into the future in maybe his own different way. Which card will I activate? What will I do?
Yeah, Jarrid does need to plan out how he's going to sequence his plays on Hanko's turn. Does look like he's in many ways committing to just trying to navigate through that turn effectively. Not invest any more resources here on his own turn.
Oh, maybe we are going to go ahead and summon. It looks like just a normal summon of Emmy there. She was not added from anywhere to the hand.
If that one is grain, they say they look
it is grain.
very, very similar.
My bad, my bad.
I mean, it looks like it has an umbrella in the top right corner.
Okay.
This one is, in fact,
Thank you.
grain.
They were consent. We've got Grains, so maybe we are going to push after all. Hanko now put on the edge, running the mental abacus. If I do this, then you do that, then it'll sweep it away. It's interesting. I'm going to have to study Hanko's duel so I can learn his sign language.
I know. Are there any reads that you can ascertain by watching the hand movements?
I have nothing.
It looks like he's fine.
Did you already cut? I believe you're fine. Okay.
So play is passing back over. Hanko, almost unsure, but yeah, it is your turn to draw.
All right, just putting a monster on field allows you to eventually get Grain's effect to add a spell or potentially hideout. Obviously, hideout's on the field already, so a breakaway, for instance, would make sense.
Does give you additional follow-up for the next turn, and that is what Jarrid settled on. He wanted to make sure that he could come back next turn, but now he's in for the fight of his life because he wrote that check. Now he's got to cash it. Can he stop Hanko from taking this whole championship right now?
We know he has a breakaway and a Typhoon. He also, by putting a Blitzclique on the field, has fulfilled what would eventually become the requirement to utilize that breakaway and destroy a card on the field. You obviously do have to return a Thunder you control. So we see here Grain activated. Grain is now going to try to go after. Is it Typhoon or is it breakaway?
Feel like that might have been the Typhoon, but I guess we'll find out. So not sure if we've gotten a response. Jarrid, you're missing there for a bit. Not sure if he wants to respond, activate anything. Not too much you can do, but one choice or the other. Yeah, the tension on this duel is just heavy, right? We talked about the heart attacks. I mean, this is Heart Attack City, watching these two duelists fight so well. Trying to sequence their plays, but again, a really big, not necessarily risk, but just kind of a strategy call from Jarrid to say, I think I can make it back next turn. But we're going to go ahead and use the Blitzclique breakaway, go ahead and return or Grain to the hand.
Now he's trying to destroy his own Typhoon.
I mean, that makes sense. Don't destroy, don't get the positive effects. And I think that's what we're going to do, but then we'll chain the Typhoon to go ahead and get rid of the Blitzclique step leader. Great sequencing and keeps Hanko at bay for a little bit. And there's his own Grain. Jarrid might have really set up a great sequence of plays there. And Hanko still has a pretty sizable hand though, so he's got plenty of plays. But, I mean, this is some high-intensity dueling. Every little micro-interaction counts. So, Hanko, what do you got for us next?
Seems like the next play action honestly may be the deciding one. It looks like, okay, we're just going to resolve the chain, so Typhoon is going to destroy the step leader now. Of course, step leader will not activate. That needs to be destroyed by a Blitzclique effect. Very important to note.
Typhoon.
But it does look like Hanko has plenty of cards in his hand.
Looks like I see plenty of Blitzclicks as well as the field spell, Hideout in the Sky, and a 7th Tachyon and a Blitzclique breakaway. Plenty of cards for Hanko, but he needs to play at a reasonable pace, so he cannot get, again, his head in the clouds. He's got to just activate the Hideout and get going, but it looks like the first card is actually going to be...
The only thing he really has to worry about is the fact that now Whisker is live. A card has been destroyed by a Blitzclique effect. It was, in fact, his Typhoon. We know there's Grain in hand. We know there's Whisker. Obviously, Whisker can destroy a few cards on the field. There's a negation there. How to find a way to navigate through both of those Whisker interactions.
Now it looks like he is going to go ahead and start things off. Getting back into it.
Some copy of Grain.
Grain seems to be the only monster we've seen for a little bit here.
Now he's going to follow that up with Hideout in the Sky.
Speaking of monsters, here comes a token. Just so thoughtful, both of these duelists. Again, some of the best to ever do it, and one of them is about to be called the best to ever do it as they win the Genesys Championship here, but looks like Hanko still has a lot of different material, or excuse me, pieces of the puzzle here.
This will now allow him to search his deck.
Jarrid could still hang in there. There's a version of this where there's just not enough damage, but speaking of damage, you know that Hideout in the Sky is going to increase the attack of all those monsters. So there's a version of this where Hanko ends it just right now. And the check that Jarrid wrote bounces.
I think functionally he can put himself in position because what he wants to do is force Jarrid to use the Whisker and then also find a way of dealing with that. So we'll see if he's able to construct that. Looks like he's considering searching Emmy. Makes a lot of sense. Emmy, when it's added, will allow him to reveal, target a card on the field and destroy it.
Rain at the ready to see that destruction. Fans out the graveyard just for a moment. Nothing too interesting in there. Looks like we're going to get into it.
So what are we going to special summon from the hand? And because Grain is on the field, he will be able to add another Blitzclique spell or redundant copy of Hideout to hand. It looks like with that little umbrella in the top right corner, Emmy is going to hit the field, though. The breakaway is going to return back from the graveyard.
As well as the step leader. A lot of card advantage. looks like maybe we are going for that quote-unquote redundant copy, but it is just insurance, right?
You may continue.
What's better than one hand in the sky? Maybe two.
Be a little bit more.
Oh, sorry, it just feels really
Right,
serious.
step leader allows you to add it back to hand, very similar to that of breakaway.
Now we'll use 7 Tachyon since we do have the redundant copy of the card. You can just put it right back.
Number 104.
Reveal target is very familiar, right? It's Masquerade.
Yep.
So into the deck, let's see what card it is that we add. Easy peasy. Plenty of great Thunder monsters to choose from.
This is the Thunder King, not Ryo. The
Yeah.
Lightning Strike, sorry, not Thunder Monk, I believe is what this one is. Thunderclap Monk.
He's not a king, but you know, they're all kings here. But the Thunderclap Monk, obviously there's a lot of interesting choices you can use, putting a card back there. Did not quite see if it was the additional copy of the Hideout in the Sky. It wasn't actually. Chose another card to put back.
I would like to use
The Thunder Monk does his best impression of Thunder King because Thunder King's points not worth it here in Genesys.
It's a great card, but save that for the advanced format. And I'm hoping that there's some advanced format enthusiasts who see this deck and say, yeah, I can push this over the edge. But speaking of push, I mean, it's a lot of cards in hand. Let's see if we are able to do it. Taking a moment for Jarrid to, looks like, activate. Oh, just think about it.
Anyways, priced into it. Problem is, we know there's a Whisker. Hatra's hand as well.
So Whisker effect activates. What's Hanko going to do in response? Pins and needles again. Been saying it this entire duel, but like, I feel bad for those two duelists up there. Can you imagine the stress, the intensity, all the practice?
I would like to change.
Here's a copy instead of breakaway. So this would potentially allow him to place either Return Stroke or Alternator on the field. It's going to be a copy of Return Stroke. We've yet to really see this one. This makes it so that his Blitzclique monsters cannot be destroyed by card effects. So Whisker comes down. It's going to special out a couple Blitzclicks from the hand. Looks like a copy of Surge. Looks like a copy of Grain. We see, though, that Blitzclique monsters remain safe as the protection of Return Stroke is in effect. Whisker comes down for Hanko. He's now able to. There's no Return Stroke on Jarrid's side of the field and establish the full 5 Blitzclique monsters on the field. Actually, 4 plus our friend the Monk.
He's an honorary Thunder
And that's
monster.
it.
Right? And there's the handshake. Hanko Chow is your Genesys champion. All the work pays off. Look at that duelist feeling it, the relief. But there is that trophy. It is his to take. Come on, Hanko. You thinking about it? You think the crowd, do you want to see him lift that trophy?
I think we do.
And there it is. Your first Genesys champion. He's not just going to Japan. He is a master of a brand new format. And there he is. Look at the relief, the joy. It's a lot. And Jarrid, what a sportsman too, smiling too, because both of these guys are going to have a great time in Japan. They are. Wow,
What an
a
impressive
match.
showing from
Yeah.
the Blitzclique strategy. Piloted at such a high level by these two duelists.
Highly technical play, and they both finally gave into that Whisker push. And yeah, I mean, we know the Blitzclique won, but the narrative here is so different. Gorgeous trophy to put on the shelf.
Hatra knew exactly the importance of breakaway. Wait for breakaway, activate it when Whisker's effect's activated, establish the Return Stroke on the field, protect your monsters, follow up with your own. Game over.
Sign that sacred slip. You ever think you were going to sign the first place slip, Hanko? Well, you have now.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Even I'm moved by that. Wow. Good stuff. Good stuff. My goodness, my goodness. I'm going to wait for the heartbeat to calm down. There we go. There we go. Oof. What a match.
So far, we've crowned a Dragon Duel champion. We've crowned here our very first Genesys champion. Soon, a little bit later this afternoon, we'll eventually crown an NAWCQ champion. But match after match so far this weekend, the stakes are just getting higher and higher. You can see the emotion here released at the final point in time in which that Whisker, breakaway, Return Stroke, that sequence there, you can tell
Great play.
That's what those hand movements meant. It meant that he was thinking 4, 5, 6 turns ahead, knowing exactly how to construct what would be eventually the winning line of play. You can tell that there's been a lot of practice leading up to this event. Blitzclique was a deck on everyone's mind this weekend, going into the Genesys format. Clearly met, if not exceeded, expectations. Hanko, though, showed that he was really the master of the intricacies of that match.
He really was, and no shade on Jarrid. Just an incredible performance by both of those duelists, and they are both just incredible. And again, we can only crown one champion, and now we have it. It's Hanko Chow, a storied duelist with a story to tell now. I mean, he is the first Genesys champion, and as the format continues to evolve, I think we'll be seeing him more and more in the future. But all the great competitors throughout the Genesys Championship, we saw so many great matches on stream throughout the weekend. And, you know, we've talked about how much work it is to get through it, right? 15 rounds of Swiss for our NAWCQ advanced format competitors, but it's also just been 3 days of being at this venue, you know, being away from home, committing yourself to the task. You did it. You did it.
And there are players conceivably who played, I believe it was 8 rounds of Swiss that we did on Friday for Genesys.
Yeah.
Maybe those same players came back, tried 9 rounds of Swiss in the NAWCQ. Maybe they realized with a 6-3 record or 5-4 record that they may not be in contention for what is a top 8 cut, not a top 64 cut. Then came back, all right, let's play day 2 of Genesys. I mean, there are duelists that may have put in 25 rounds of tournament play this weekend. So real credit to those duelists that showed that they had the stamina to get through 3 days of dueling.
And you know, it's so funny, you and I both know that right after this, crawling all around Battle City in Minneapolis, those duelists are probably going to play even more games tonight.
Tonight into the early morning tomorrow.
Yeah, all the way until they have to get on the plane and probably just play from, you know, the little tray tables. So, gosh, when you love this game, you love this game. And those 2 duelists showed us their love for it. Oh, good stuff.
And I think it's really great when players show passion. I mean, if you're watching at home, clearly you're passionate about the game. If you're here, clearly you're passionate about the game, and I really love seeing, you know, a win means something to a player.
It does.
On the level that it just did.
It really does. You know, obviously everybody here is incredible, but it just feels like it justifies all the blood, sweat, and tears that you put in. You know, all the sleeves you had to keep buying because you just kept playtesting so hard that they became marked cards. Oh, goodness gracious. Well, guess we got to go build our Genesys decks, and we'll try to show up there sometime.
Have to be well prepared for Blitzclique, apparently.
Yes, apparently. My goodness. I think that a lot of duelists knew coming into this event that it was going to be so good, but I don't know that I could have expected 7 out of the top 8 being on that. And the Satellar Knight duelist, obviously a great duelist too, because I felt like that was the deck that everyone thought was going to do so well. We saw Walter Jewel, I think during round 4 of Swiss on Friday, pilot that, and it was so good too. But it just didn't make it, so everybody got to go back to the lab and figure out what's next.
I know, this is probably a lot more on the controlling side of things relative